One of the questions I get asked often as an author is how to get published. And I realized recently, as several people have asked, and I just gave a little presentation at a charter school, that I should make a video about this because there are lots of aspiring authors out there who are curious about how to go about it. And if you're one of those people, I encourage you to go for it. It can be really easy. It can be really fun, whether you make millions or not. It's rewarding. And you might as well give it a shot and see what happens, right? So this video will give the basics of the two main avenues for publishing with lots of sub areas, I guess. The first main area is the traditional publishing, and that's when you get a traditional publishing house to actually print your material for you. And that has some benefits. You'll get some kind of advance on royalties. Royalties you might get between 7.5% to maybe 15% at the high end, according to sources I've read. And the advance they give you maybe between, I don't know, $3,000 to $15,000. I don't know what that's at really for beginning authors. Don't expect too much, but hey, get excited with whatever you get. And the way you go about it, there are three different main ways, I would say. The first way is to approach the publishing house directly. Now, before you do this, you need to pick up the most recent edition of Writer's Market, and that lists all these different publishing houses, and you can see how they want to be approached. For example, they may say, go ahead and send us your whole manuscript. And if you do that, if that makes you nervous, by the way, then first put it in an envelope, take it to the post office, and send it to yourself. Registered mail, certified, have the post office stamp all over the back, so that when it comes to you, it clearly has not been opened and it's dated and stamped. It's all official, right? Don't open the envelope, because this is your security. Ever since 1977, I think, or 78, 73, one of those, the latest Copyright Act, as soon as you create something, it is copyrighted and it belongs to you and it should be protected. But you may need to prove that in court. So if you mail that to yourself and keep it in that envelope, you can show, look, I had this at such and such a date. And that's really the standard way of copywriting these days. If you have something that's really going gangbusters, you might want to actually register with the Copyright Office. So anyway, as I was saying, some publishers will have you send the manuscript directly to them, and then it gets there and it sits on what's called a slush pile, and they hire editors to read through these manuscripts, and if they like something, they'll pass it up the chain, and if not enough people like it, then you'll get a letter either requesting a contract or maybe requesting some changes, and then maybe they'll look at it again, revisit it. And any kind of positive reaction like that is good. It's really good, so get excited. And on the other hand, prepare for lots of bad news. Okay, expect lots of published authors have had hundreds of rejection letters. They're usually polite. Some of them won't even respond, some publishing houses, and I think it tells you what to expect. Maybe you have to include self-addressed stamp envelope if you want your manuscript back, or if you want a rejection letter or something like that. So don't feel bad, okay? Not every book is right for every publishing house. You can increase your chances by, before you choose who you want to approach, go down to Barnes & Noble or your local bookstore and find other books that are similar to what you have written. And that way you can target the publishers who are really, are interested in that sort of thing. So that's plan A. Actually, let me specify also, some publishers, they don't want your whole manuscript. Maybe they want the first 3 chapters. So make sure you make a good first impression, because if it's not that good, I don't think they're not going to read the whole thing, are they? Some of them only want a query letter where you try and give your best description and get them excited and interested and curious about seeing the whole thing. All right, so don't send what a publishing house doesn't want. Make sure and do what they want. Now, some publishing houses you'll read, they don't want any submissions. They don't want any solicitations from new authors like that. They only work with agents, and that's really a good way to go if you're serious about this. If you can find an agent who's excited about what you have to offer, and if that agent, especially if they have relationships with publishing houses and people trust them, you have a good connection. The agent will probably take about a 10% cut of your revenue, but don't let that stop you, because number one, 90% of a lot is a lot better than 100% of nothing. And secondly, they may be able to negotiate a better contract for you. So So that's a good way to go. And then third, and this is what I would do if I was a publisher, if I was like looking for lots of manuscripts, is start by self-publishing, get some success and catch their attention. Then when you approach them, or maybe they'll approach you, you can say, look, a lot of people like this. I have averaged 4.6 stars on Amazon. I have 12,000 reviews. That's pretty darn convincing. So anyway, there's an option to consider. That's traditional publishing in a nutshell. Now let's talk about self-publishing. In the past, this was stigmatized because people who self-published, obviously you couldn't get really published by a real publisher. And a lot of times it would go through what's called a vanity press, where instead of paying you a royalty, you would actually pay them to publish your book and you'd get some copies. Hey, at least I got your stuff in print. Or conversely, maybe you went to and did the whole job and went to some printer and maybe you printed thousands of copies because it's so much cheaper, to buy them in bulk, and those are all in your garage now. So it wasn't, it was something you could try, and I did, and it can work out well. It can work out okay. It's a risk, but why not go for it? The good news, the better news is though that there are much better, much easier, and much less expensive ways. In fact, you can do this now with zero overhead. And here's how it works. I'll talk about the three main areas of self-publishing. Number one is ebooks. It's been 5 or 7 years since Amazon began selling more ebooks than they did actual print books. And that was when the Kindle was new. And now there are millions, or billions, whatever, of Kindles being sold all the time, and they're very popular. So ebook sales. And I know for myself, I sell vastly more. I probably make, I don't know if I make 10 times more from my ebooks than from my print books, but between 5 and 10, it's a lot more. It's a good market to go for. So, and one nice thing is formatting your ebooks is quite simple. Just make sure of, I'd say 2 things. Number one, make sure you have a table of contents in there that people can click on and it takes them to the different chapters. If you don't, unless it's a really short book, maybe readers sometimes get a little bit annoyed at that. Number 2, check your formatting, create some extra spaces above your title. And actually that's easier than it used to be now, because if you just hit return a bunch of times, it wouldn't do all those returns like web programming, but now I think it does. So that's pretty easy. Make your chapter font a little bigger and stuff like that. You can't control the fonts that people see on their e-readers because there's a set number of fonts that you're used there, but you can still try and make it look nicer, and it'll look nicer. You can add some images and stuff in there as well. So once you're ready with that, go to kdp.amazon.com, stands for Kindle Direct Publishing, and sign up with your normal Amazon login, and you can go click on bookshelf and you can upload your book. You upload your book and you upload a cover, unless you have a program that that creates like an EPUB or something like that, which contains the cover and stuff in it. Right, and once it's uploaded, they'll check for really basic quality or something. They usually approve it within 12 hours. They're pretty quick, and then within a few days, it'll be available on Amazon. People can buy it and download it. It's great. It's really automated, and you can set the pricing. Like if you set it, you can set it 99 cents is the cheapest you can sell it for. Up to $2.99 or up to $2.98, you'll get a 35% cut of the total revenue. From $2.99 up to $9.99, you'll get a 70% cut. See, pretty good cuts, right? And from $10 up, you get 35% again. And it changes in different markets, like whether it's in the U.S. and India or Europe, Japan. They've been opening lots of new markets lately. There are some other features, like you can choose to join in KDP Select, where you guarantee that you will only sell this ebook on Amazon, nowhere else, not Barnes & Noble for their Nook, not any of the other places out there. And if you do that, then one of the benefits is that every quarter that you're enrolled for that, and you can opt out of it after every quarter and stuff, they give you 5 days where you can set it up that people can download your ebook for free. and you don't make any money, obviously, on this, but you might get thousands of people to download your book, and maybe some people discover you, and then they'll send their friends back later and get your name out. So that's a good marketing little program they have for you. I forgot to mention also before you upload it, make sure you have a quality book. It doesn't have to be amazing, you don't have to be like something completely unique, because a lot of times if you're just regular Joe or regular Joanna, if you can express things in a way that people can relate to or they find interesting, if they say, yes, that's how I feel, you're spelling it out for them, that can be really enjoyable. But do your best, do some editing, get some people to look, at it, and that's always best. Also, I would highly recommend following the writing process. Highly recommend, for example, when you map out the structure of your book before you write the whole thing, in other words, what happens next, you know where you're going. You can make changes as you go along, but it saves you from a lot of writer's block and confusion and running out of good ideas and coming up with a stupid ending, which is your last impression, stuff like that. So I would highly recommend doing that. I know a lot of authors who don't. I got one good friend who's been writing a book. It sounds really interesting, but he's been writing for 4 years, okay? And part of the problem is not knowing how it ends yet. My first book I published, I wrote the majority of it in 3 weeks because I had that outline. And it changed a lot, a lot of details got added, of course, as I went along, but having that really made it easy. Except for I worked on it night and day, and after those 3 weeks, I could not look at that thing for months. I was so sick of it. But it did well. It was like number 200 on Amazon for a while, a long time ago, when that was much easier to accomplish. So it was a good experiment. It was a good start, and that's what you should do. So there's ebooks. If you want to get paperback books as well, I recommend going to createspace.com. That's a webpage that's owned by Amazon, and you need to format your books a little better, make sure the gutter and the margins are correct so that when they cut the finished book, your words don't get cut off and all, and they'll tell you how to do that. And also, you'll need to create the cover, and they have a really easy, simple cover creator you can use, or after you tell them how many pages you want and what size you want the finished book to be, then in most cases you can download a file that you can modify in Photoshop, and it shows you where the margins are, where your spine should be, and make sure you don't have any lettering and stuff that would get cut off in the finished thing. So that's pretty easy. And if you're going to do that, by the way, I recommend doing that before going to kdp.amazon.com, because then one of the options is you can click and it'll take you to KDP, and I think it'll upload your book for you and do that for you, so that's nice. And then when someone orders one of your books, they print it up and they mail it to you, and you get a check a month and a half or so later, if you made at least $20, I think, a month. And the third way to get published is audiobooks, and for that I would recommend going to acx.com. This is also owned by Amazon. It stands for Audible, I forget what it stands for. Anyway, there you can upload a little piece of your book, and you can say, hey, I need someone, a female with a West Coast accent, this, in their 20s or something like that. And professional recording artists will record, that portion of the book you upload and audition. And if you like them, then you can make a contract. You can just say, look, we'll just go through ACX and we'll split the revenue 50-50. And the more copies you sell, the bigger your cuts become. Or you can make a contract and pay that person a set amount. Maybe go to your local university and find some nice theater students and get them to read it for you. But if you do, or if you record it yourself, which is fine, you need to do a professional job. No background noises, no gurgling in your throat, good enunciation, no stuttering, and you gotta take out any hiss that's on your recording and any weird spots, Anyway, there are lots of different things you need to do. So you need a reasonably good studio, and you need some good software, and you need some kind of reading skill. I'm not going to say you have to be professional, but it does need to be good, so don't take that lightly. And that, I think, is about everything I have to say. So if you're thinking about getting published, I say do it. Go for it. You never know what will happen. It's fun, it's rewarding. Whether you make it big or not, you might as well get your feet wet and give it a try. And so good for you for being ambitious. Go for it. Good luck.